Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy New Year! Woo! Mwah. That was your New Year's kiss. Now, obviously, now that I have your attention, it is not January 1st or December 31st for that matter, but it is a new moon in Virgo today, September 14th, sometime after 9 p.m. on the eastern side of life in this nation. Now, this new moon in Virgo is bringing that new year, new you energy by helping us organize and implement productive behaviors into our daily routine. And it's all for the purpose of mastering our manifestation power as Virgo does best, right? So it's, in that vibration of when we come to the end of the year and we start to get our lives together because we want to start the new year off fresh. We start working out, changing our habits, considering diets, figuring out what schedule we want to submit to or create to be most productive to start the new year off well. That's the energy that we're in now. So in that vein, one suggestion I would make is that now would be a good time to declutter and declutter by way of every space that may impact your creativity. So that's home life, work life, car life for some of us, locker life if you're in school or have some type of workspace or separate space that's small and you don't even think that is impactful. Everything matters and by way of manifestation. So clear it all out, get it organized, decide what stays and what goes, and make it a concise space that speaks to the mind frame that you ideally want to have at this particular time to be at your most productive self. And to that point, also streamline routines that you may already have in place, or start some routines for your ultimate success. Again, working out, figuring out a better work-life balance, figuring out time for your hobbies, your interests, in addition to maybe banging out some things on your to-do list or setting up a system where you will be able to make an impact in all of those areas of your life, maybe organizing your children's lives and their schedules so it all fits in quite neatly and there's less chaos and much more consideration about how you live in your day-to-day life. In addition to the practical things, as I said, that specifically pertain to you, like working out, eating healthy, practicing whatever your craft is, learning more about whatever you're wanting to be more expressive in, whether it be a business or a hobby or some interest or expanded experience of knowledge or whatever the case may be. Now is the time to get into it ultimately. So what I'm going to do, I have more to say about the moon, but what I'm actually going to do while I have your attention and to keep the time concise is I'm going to just start pulling cards. I'm not really going to pay too much attention to it as I'm talking about the moon, but what I will do is I will timestamp. So you can have this moon message for the new moon in Virgo at the beginning, and then I'll get into the reading and that'll be timestamped at the end, okay? So without further ado, so Virgo is ruled by the planet Mercury, which is just about to go direct on the 15th, right? And that makes this a prime time to solidify a practical plan of action forward based on the analytics and the intel that were gathered during that retro. And much of what has been revealed and there's a lot that's been revealed, and in actuality, there are still revelations underway that are shedding new light on the truth and how it applies to you. In addition to that, we have Neptune and Uranus, which are in retrograde, and they may still have some secrets to share or some surprises up their cosmic sleeves, respectively, which is why I'm emphasizing again to get your plan in place and to begin to practice the habits of the you that you would ultimately be in order to attract and maintain whatever it is that you're manifesting or that you have been manifesting, because many of us have been working on something for a while now. That's too many. All right, so the new moon is like lighter fluid for our fire. You know, it incites us to want to start a new project, to get ramped up again after we've come out of the full moon energy that we just were in. And that's great energy, you know, to power ahead in some new adventure or plan. But there's just a bit of a halt and a caution to store that energy up and invest it to ultimately promote your persistence and your consistency and your routine, gathering your resources, again, putting that intel that you ultimately collected from the retrogrades, particularly in Mercury and the ones that are still in place, and allow that to be the fuel for your fire to get that plan in place. Like, consider it's not quite January 1st yet, and in your mind, you're looking to start your new workout, your new life, your new you as soon as the new year starts. It's December in our energetic sphere where you're getting geared up for it, but more or less like after Christmas, December, where the holidays are kind of winding down, as summer is winding down, but you're gearing up for that change of season, right? But the reason why I'm saying that there's a bit of a pause for the cause is because there may be yet some info to be revealed, that will ultimately make your new endeavors or your new adventures more, how can I say it? I don't know how to say it, but it'll make a bigger impact on how you actually blast off into whatever that newness is. Consider the details again at this time as you're in preparation and planning to get geared up. Look over those details, those contracts, the considerations for new plans, the things that you're excited to move ahead in. It's still a good time to look at the aspects of all things before you actually jump out and make a move. And that's Virgo energy right there. They have all the facts and figures in place, all the analytics aligned, the figures and details, the data that ultimately will help you to move forward most masterfully. Again, Virgo. Now, this magical aspect of this transit in particular is this grand trine that we're experiencing between the Virgo moon, Uranus actually in retrograde in Taurus, Pluto in retro in Capricorn, and that's forming an earth trine, a grand earth trine, which is especially going to be supportive in helping our manifestations become a matter of fact, i.e. real-time tangible results and rewards. So again, the reason for the pause for the cause is because there's still some things shifting into place. In addition to that, some things being revealed, and by way of that pause is the Neptune opposition to the sun, on the sidelines. And ultimately, that's creating a potential for there still to be some mystery in the matters that may ultimately be keys to your optimum creativity, meaning making the most out of your manifestations, not moving forward with just a little bit of the info and then surging ahead with that because that's the results you'll have, but having the full picture, the full scale, all the details in alignment. Right now, Neptune in opposition to the sun may put a little bit of a haze on that perspective. So ideally, my suggestion is to look forward to the fall equinox, which is September 22nd. And that is ultimately that go day. Not to say you can't still do what you do, take it as it resonates for you, but ideally that's when those mystifying aspects will be cleared away and you'll have that extra surge of the inset of the new season on the 22nd to really surge your endeavors forward in a big way and with all the information at bay, okay? So in the meantime, no worries, right? There's no worries at all. Like I said, it doesn't mean that you can't, because you may feel that eagerness to get going now, and this is why I'm saying, like, let that eagerness be fueled into actually putting your plans into place and getting in the habit of the things that are going to ultimately support your success. And in the meantime, just focus on what you know now. You know, you don't have to worry about the so-called things that are to be revealed, what you don't know, what you don't have. You can work with all the magic that you have within you and all the intel that you have around you and make the most of that. And that will ultimately set you up to be well prepared for whatever is coming down the pike and wherever you're leading to down that pike as well. Remember, be, do, have is a great manifestation mantra, something I picked up in momentum education years ago that changed my life. Be, do, have in that order. Virgo moon is helping us to be productive by doing practical things that will prepare us to have the prosperity that we're calling into our lives, and ultimately to hold on to it so that it's not something fleeting. The being, as opposed to the doing and the having, is the heavy lifting. The rest of it is just light work. And when I learned that in my life, it really shifted. Like, the being coming from that mindset and spirit of you is the primary point of productivity. Getting yourself in the mind space of who you get to be to acquire what it is, the outcome that you're idealizing. When you get in the mindset to be successful, to be prosperous, to be productive, you begin to shape your habits to match that being. So someone that sees themselves as worthy of success, worthy of a successful business, a productive business, worthy of an expanded social platform, or worthy of a promotion at the job, you know, worthy of a partnership that is divine, starts to work in habits day to day in their life that would ultimately speak to that worthiness. So if you're looking to have the body of your dreams, you know, your best body ever, you're not necessarily going to be eating all the wrong things and doing no workouts. You'll be doing the opposite, you know, and then the results are the having, which come on the back end from you changing the mindset in the first place. All right, hope that makes sense. So anyway, yeah, so that's that. Now let's get into this message and see what the cards are saying, of which I was not paying attention to what I was drawing. Maybe I should just stop here and see what we got. I'll take these last two. Ooh, what's that? Okay. All right, so what we got here? We got the Lovers and the Justice. We got, oh, I see something hiding again, like yesterday. All right. So this is your new moon reading, BT dubs. I said that for timestamp purposes only. All right, so let's see here. Let's see how the vibes is vibing. All right, so we got the Lovers and the Justice first out. Then we got the Three of Pentacles, the King of Pentacles, love it. The Eight of Cups, the Two of Wands, the Ace of Wands, the Tower, and the Devil. Okay, give me a second. Let me see here. All right, so I'm seeing the Justice card with the Lovers. That's justice for perhaps, sorry, my neighbor's been yelling for the past 30 minutes. Distracted. The Lovers and the Justice is some call to order on account of perhaps some injustice that's occurred to a partnership, a couple, a union, maybe creating balance within that partnership on account of what's been occurred to be a disturbance, perhaps. Let's see where we at down the next row. 3 of Pentacles is a collaboration. The King of Pentacles. Okay. Okay. How does this tie into the new moon? I'm calling it in, Spirit. Let me know. Because I'm just sensing another doozy right here. So the top is the justice for something that's incurred, some egregious acts that have been imposed upon divine beings individually and collectively that has ultimately been hindering the union of the co-creation and procreation of divine beings is what I hear, that has been oppressed. I'm seeing it here with the Tower card and the Devil, that in the collaboration energy here, that there was someone that had something great to gain from the energy of the Lovers card, meaning there was some exchange of reward, or what is it? There was something that was ultimately monetized on account of the energy of divine beings, but that was not being assumed or consumed by themselves. You know, like consider like the Justice card could even be like societally the justice system, you know, keeping people at odds with their divine selves, unable to really identify with their spiritual nature for the containment of the illusions of the land. And it's been, you know, perpetuated, at least in this country, unfortunately, through the justice system, which is very imbalanced, or has been in its nature. And it's kept, you know, it's been the opposite of harmony and fairness for many, for many divine individuals, or just people in general, but certainly those that have any aspiration to be more or do more than the limitations of life project is possible. You know, it's almost like there's been an unfair, it's been unfair. Ultimately, it hasn't been justified. There hasn't been a justification for the lack of stability and balance in society, you know, on account of the fact that there should be enough for everyone and people should be free to live the lives that they feel divine to do so. But the law of the land itself, princes and principalities thereof, have had a hand to play in almost projecting these limitations as law. That's what I'm hearing with the Justice card. Okay. So we got, and this is the collaboration here, which is very dark in nature. Now, this still stands as that the justification is what's leading the top of this spread, because as I've been saying, it's time for the balance of all things. that have not been justified, that have not been working in a balanced way for, the harmony of universal order as it's been ordained to be so, not necessarily by what you or I thinks per se individually, but what is good, what's for the greater good of all to be productive and sustainable and, evolving, So the Three of Cups, that's that collaboration here by these so-called kings. And in this regard, it's just materialistic kings, princes and principalities, again, that have a lot to gain over on the suppression of individuals from realizing their full potential. Ultimately, there's much value there. And the justice here hovering over the Eight of Cups is that ultimately there has to be an abandonment of these tactics and plans because they just don't really work the way that they have before. Not even the justice system is justicing like like it used to, because it's just it's self-destructing. That energy has persisted too long for there to be imbalance, and people have a resistance to it, even from the inside out in some ways, regardless of what's projected to us. It's just not, it's not operating in the same fuel and energy of which it was created to do so. And this is like perhaps even a new plan of action, or, still this is about making a plan of action ultimately. Now, I'm not sure if it's in favor of some change perhaps, and maybe that's what's being met here in the middle is, okay, so there's this turning away, but as I've seen this before, it's like for a new plan to rule the world. This is New World Order as it's attempting to be admitted. Okay, all right, here we go. So this is like the powers that be or were, however you choose to see it, is looking to enact some new plan of action to ultimately cause a disruption in the evolution that is taking place from an elevated space, meaning even from an ethereal space and time. This is energy that's happening naturally, organically, is set to do that. And there are energies here in the earth realm, or maybe even beyond, because I'm sure as above, so below, that galactically there, obviously, even with the planets being in retro and things of that sort, that there is a clash of the titans. Oh, Neptune and the sun. I even spoke about that. They're still trying to, okay, so it does make sense. It does align. That there's this haze that's now they want to continue to blanket this haze over what would be divine exposure with the sun, right? Neptune is like dreamy. It's Pisces energy. So it's like it's out of this world. And you know what they've been doing, what I've been seeing a lot, that alien talk. That's the newest distraction. I just saw something, I know I've said this before, but I just saw something new about them exposing some alien presence in Mexico or something. They showed these two beings that look like E.T. ultimately. So I don't know if there's any truth to it. I can't speak to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't even speak to whether or not it is, it isn't. I don't know for sure because I can't say that I've ever seen. I do believe that there's a world there's an existence that, is real beyond our 3D experience. I do believe that, but how it gets to exist, I can't speak to because I just don't know. At least I don't know yet, So this is not me necessarily speaking it for or against this new revelation as it is, but as I've said before, it's always about why we are being shown these things. What is it? Because when we're being shown different things on a mass media scale, and there's breaking news about a sort of thing, that's really the time to question the purpose of the propaganda. Not the information itself, quite honestly, because the news as we know it is a force that isn't as pure as we've always kind of believed it to be, you know? So this is definitely kind of in alignment with the haze of that Neptune Sun square, where there's still some things yet to be revealed. And I'm saying that in connection with the alien stuff is because Neptune, like I said, is Piscean energy. It's the last sign in the zodiac. It's about endings. Oh, wait, am I saying that right? Yeah, it's about endings and, bringing things to a culmination. But it's also with the sun, there should be an illumination there, meaning shedding some new light on some things that have gone unnoticed or just unknown, So the projection would be that, oh, this is some new revelation of life outside of our planet. Yeah, maybe so, but consider the source is ultimately what I'm saying. Because given what the energy that I'm picking up here, the tactics that have been working, i.e. the more practical ways of keeping people oppressed and contained and limited and docile and almost in a subservient, dare I say, slave mentality, don't really work for the oppressors or those that, I should say, offenders, the offenders or the, what do you say? What's the opposite of offenders? I don't know, the offendees or whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. Literally with the justice card, the offenders of these perpetrations of illusion, ultimately. The old ways don't really work as much because people have kind of gotten hip to the game just by way of natural evolution and ultimately, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, eventually somebody's going to catch on and realize, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense, just by looking at the history of our experiences. So again, we got that energy that's persistent enough because there's great value in keeping the masses suppressed and subservient and ultimately unawakened to their possibilities. So it has had to more or less abandon its old tactics, but not without being intentional about finding some new way to project. Or I would say that this is ultimately like an abuse of power with the Ace of Wands, the Tower, and the Devil. The intention is to ultimately throw people that have elevated themselves in some regard out of their ivory towers to bring them back to this hopeless state of being. I think I talked a little bit about that. Was it yesterday? No, yesterday was a good reading. I think it was the day before yesterday when I was talking about how, this energy persists to it may have been 2 days ago actually, how this energy persists to siphon from your disappointments and your fears, and also siphon from the servitude and the contribution that you commit to on account of those failures and disappointments. So ultimately, if they beat you down enough to feel like you can't achieve any ascended status, even in the most practical sense, let alone in the spiritual sense, but just practically having a prosperous experience of life, then you might actually abandon your investments, walk away having invested all of your energy and time and enhancing your life experience, and then go right back into the society that ultimately imposed the oppression in the first place. Go back into working with the masses and working with your head down and not really looking to reach beyond your limitations or do anything outside the box. And when you do that, you're a prime candidate to ultimately fund the well-oiled machine, as it is of this nation alone, let alone how the globe spins. You know what I mean? How the world revolves at this point in time. or rotates, I should say, literally with him holding the world in his hand. And this is the energy to continue to maintain this sense of control, to keep the world small, keep people from seeing the broad possibilities and the perspective beyond, what is right in front of your face. And the way to project that is by saying, look at this, and now that's why I'm like really skeptical. And I feel like that I'm getting the sense that a lot of people are, which again is exactly what I'm talking about, that even that trick, with the whole there's aliens in outer space, thing didn't even really work. I don't think it's really working like they thought. I mean, I'm sure there's a large majority that are glamored by it and intrigued, but I've ultimately seeing people kind of laughing about it, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, if it's authentic, it's authentic. But again, the point that I'm making here is that when you're considering the source, it's like they're trying to divert your attention to something that would be fantastical and interesting and intriguing to engage with, but ultimately hiding their hands behind what's really going on. And in this regard, I keep hearing war, in my head with this Tower card, how whatever they're gearing up to do in terms of whatever's happening in front of you is not what's happening behind the scenes, is what I'm ultimately saying. And there hasn't quite been a complete lifting of the curtain or the veil to see it at this time, because we still have so many planets in retro. And then, like I said, this Neptune Sun square is an extra little haze on the planet. But I believe that perhaps when that clears up, there may be even more revelation, about what's going on beneath the surface and behind the scenes than we even care to see, if you feel me. We got the Devil card here. So there might be some real exposés happening by way of some diabolical energies that have been in positions of power and authority. Could be our very own chief in staff, or whatever the hell you call it. It could be that, or it could be some from such a high office that, is very shocking, because that's what the Tower brings, is that there's an abuse of power of a very diabolical low nature, but from an ivory tower of sense that's being exposed and ultimately being dismantled and disrupted. So I don't know what that gets to be, but again, we got the Justice at the top of the deck with the Lovers. So that means that those are walking in the way of righteousness unto themselves and unto the highest supreme source that they submit to, shouldn't have too much to fear. Like, nobody should be walking in fear about what's to come, what's to be exposed. Like I said in the moon message, if you got into it toward the end, I said, just focus on what you know. You know enough, you have enough, there's enough information on hand to first of all protect yourself and protect your peace, but also prepare yourself for the best and the worst, ultimately, because the Lovers can't be denied. That's definitely a high-powered expression of divine ordinance and covering and anointing and protection. And the Justice is here saying that whatever was unjustified is going to be rectified, and that there's an extra layer of protection on anything beyond that point. So I feel like, especially given this is happening on the lower vibe, that whatever is about to be exposed of some misuse of power, abuse of power, something that ultimately has been a detriment to society in some way, that has kept us disconnected from what we have inherently supposed to, what we have been inherently supposed to be, do, and have, as I also said in the moon message, is being overturned. It's actually, I see that it's not only going to be dismantled, because this is the plan here. This is this energy, this force, this establishment of sorts, trying to try a new way of, I don't even know if it's all that new, but there's some regrouping that's taking place to reestablish some new order. But I just don't think it's still going to pan out the way that it's been intended, because ultimately the evolution of life is not set up for there to be tyranny and dominance in that way. Like when I said I hear like war, even the ways in which maybe this is how we get to really shift our perspective of what's going on around us and sit from a high, a high space, a high-minded point of view. There it is, because the projection of war is also what's being used to distract us and invoke this spirit of fear, where COVID couldn't do it, you know what I mean, and a potential, so many things, shootings, and the incessant violence and corruption that's going on day to day. If that isn't enough to send us back in our shells, hopefully the potential threat to our mortality or to our vitality, I guess I should say, will do the trick, so I've been seeing these videos about Putin and Kim Jong-un coming together and stuff like that type of propaganda to almost evoke a fear in you, like, oh God, what's gonna happen? Is the world gonna go nuclear? Well, I don't know. Maybe we got the tower card things blowing up, but I see this more as an internal explosion of the way things have been done, because even that has been that's why I was like, is it even new? Because even war has been used in that same regard to control population, to herd us into some corporate conception of sorts and commitment and contribution, where war makes money. We all know that. People start stocking up on stuff or bunkering down, and you really hold on to your positions of so-called security and stability, i.e. your job and different things of that nature. You definitely don't feel necessarily incited to do anything outside of the box when you're afraid of what's going to happen tomorrow, So I guess that's why I'm saying all this, to really be mindful of these projections that are being amped up. They're all diabolical. They have no true foundation. It's more illusionary than anything. Not to say that the conflicts in the world are not real. They may be, but just may not be in the way that they're being projected to us or to you or to me or to them or whomever, as to incite a sense of fear for our own safety. Remember, the justice and the lovers is leading the deck. So you're safe and sound no matter what goes down, is what I ultimately hear. Okay, so I'm gonna just take a few. I'm still okay. So the reason why I was about to say I'm still waiting to hear the connection with the moon, and this is what I feel, is because like as we're in this time, like it's a special time, like it's almost a portal of sorts with this grand earth trine, where it's just another opportunity for you to almost jump a timeline, for you to really move yourself into a new possibility in a very accelerated way, whereas before it's not the humdrum of life that we're used to, but it's still on account of what you're willing to commit to ultimately for yourself. So a lot of what I was speaking about is putting yourself in the mindset to be successful, to be productive, to be prosperous, and then doing the things that fall in line with, that match up with that identity. This is the distraction that if you're feeling like, if you're turned toward what's going to happen between us and Russia and North Korea at any given moment, or what's happening in Ukraine, no disregard to any of it, but what I'm saying is if you're being distracted by these projections, you may actually miss the opportunity to work on your plan of action that would be forwarding for your divine power. This is your divine power and creativity on the board. The powers that be and were, the be or were, I should say, because it can't be both, can they really? I guess to some of us, want to distract this evolution of creativity here with the Ace of Wands, this exaltation and expansion and ascension into divine creativity, because that will be the ultimate downfall of society as we know it. For people to say, no way, You know what I mean? For whatever it is, or and anything that it is that's not in alignment with who they feel called to be. It's like they feel like they have to jilt our security in a major way in order for, I just heard 9/11 in my head, in order for us to, or as many as possible anyway, to be knocked back down to size ultimately. Like I said, to come down from our ivory towers. And when you're fearing for your security and your stability day to day, you're not going to be focused on the things that will actually take you to the next level, as this energy of the new moon is ultimately supporting us to do. It's helping us not only to, because we've already done a lot of the releasing, even in the past Mercury retro and Venus is retro, and the planets that are still retro, they're still adding value to our intel, our psychological intel and stability that is shifting our DNA from the inside out. That's why we're not answering to these same tactics anymore, because there's too much ascension and transformation going on the inside, spirit, mind, and body, for us to still be a match for these lower vibrations to latch on to. So, I guess I'm just reiterating this to say the point is to really focus again on what you know, what you have in place, and what you are intentional about manifesting, devoid of these distractions, because if you allow them to be, they will be, and they can potentially deter you off your path to ultimate prosperity, which again is leading the way. This is what's at the top of this scale, at the top of this board, regardless of what underworld activities are happening, regardless of if it's exposed that the president himself is an alien. Okay, don't get in a tizzy, don't get crazy, don't worry about who's in charge here, because ultimately you're in charge here, and you have to act accordingly. Act accordingly. Yeah, the Empress, here we go. The Empress, and I'm gonna move these up a little bit, and I'm not taking those because that's too many. The Empress and the Six of Swords, which is about crossing over, meaning that you already have the power and authority over your life to move from these turbulent waters that are being projected onto us, and maybe not in a physical sense, but certainly in an intellectual sense and in a logical sense, a mental state of mind, where you're just not going to allow yourself to be finessed anymore by these societal illusions, that are looking to cause you delusion ultimately about who you are. You are the Empress. You have all the power and control and capability in your being to literally create a whole new civilization, if need be, especially with the right seed, hopefully it being the Emperor. But there's a derivative of this here, the Lover's card. That that's another aspect of this. If people are so distorted in who they get to be for themselves, they could never truly attract a divine partnership, meaning one that is a high vibrational match for producing premium seed in the world, the seed that's going to ultimately overturn these systems for good. I may not live to see it, and maybe you won't, but as we continue to procreate in a high frequency, that's what we will yield as high frequency fruit in the earth, and they will begin to overturn the systems, to reclaim territories that have been captured, whether it be in spirit and in truth. They'll be the ones to literally build society from the ground up. I mean, I hope I'm here to witness it, for one, for sure, and to help out as much as I can, even if I'm old. But I don't know the timeline for sure of how it gets to be, but I know that that's where we're headed, and the powers that know that that's where we're headed, and they're looking to commit to any cost to disrupt it if possible. I just don't think it's possible as much anymore as it was before, as long as those of us that have, a divine perspective, even an ideal perspective of how life could be, as fantastical as it may be. That Neptune energy with Pisces is calling us to lean into those fantasies about our world, the world we're looking to create, who we're looking to be, as fantastical as it may seem, to really lean into that ideal so that it can be made manifest by way of this Virgo energy that in that Earth trine, bringing all the Earth energies together on one accord, giving us a prime opportunity to actually literally bring the spirit into matter. Those ideals of the spirit, dreams, aspirations, ambitions to actually come to life in real time and be the businesses, be the opportunities, the buildings, the real estate, the jobs, the new ways of society that are set up for us to thrive and not to just always be trying to survive, let alone to dive into the dark. These are the energies that we're setting the stage for. We're literally preparing, like as the Empress does. She's the fertility of such an experience. It starts in the womb, and this is the womb of the universe here in this earth. But it doesn't get to happen without us actually conceiving of the possibility. We literally have to conceive the notion of, an evolved life experience, and then it gets to be back to that be, do, have. As we're in the conception of it, consider a pregnant woman while I'm at it. Once you learn that you're pregnant, well, first of all, even before you get pregnant, you may have a desire to be one that's intentional about it. But even if you're not, as I wasn't intentional about being pregnant, but you're open, your womb is fertile for it, it's primed for it. And then when you become knowledgeable, this self-awareness that we're all coming into accordance with, really seeing ourselves and our divine reflection in real time, perhaps for the first time ever, if not in a long time, in society as we know it, where people are just so much more self-aware. So consider a woman that realizes she becomes pregnant and all her habits change. She's not eating and drinking the same things. She's not doing the same things. She's not going to the same places. She's, very intentional about nurturing that life that's inside of her so that it has the best chance of survival and thrival ultimately possible in the world, not to mention the aspect of when it does become a living, breathing thing, and then everything in your life, especially moms that can relate, becomes a devotion to this being's success. You know what I mean? Like, that's the ideal here when we're talking about this Virgo new moon, about you really treating yourself as someone that's carrying precious cargo, because you are. Your ideas, your dreams, your wishes, your goals, anything that's been placed inside of you as just even a mere thought to achieve is something valuable in spirit and in truth, or else it wouldn't have been made known to you. Anything that you could have possibly even dreamed up or fantasized about is important in some way, shape, or form, or you wouldn't have connected to it and it wouldn't have connected to you. So the moment that you realize that you're carrying something special within you, something different, unique, because no pregnancy is the same, just as no child is the same, no woman is the same, no seed is the same, but you know that you're carrying something so special that not only is going to help to cross you over into a greater experience of life, but that might actually, color the landscape, because I always see this card as these individuals are the color that reaches over into that land, which is very gray. in the distance. You don't know what's going on over there. It's like the future in a sense, the projection of the future, where you're headed somewhere, but you don't even necessarily know what's going to be there when you get there, who's going to be there, how you're going to ultimately make out or succeed or so forth once you're there, you know what I mean? But you just know you're heading in a direction. Same with pregnancy. It's one of the most mystical experiences. Like, yeah, the science of it all does its best job in telling us what's going on at every stage, but ultimately there's some aspects of the process that I don't think anybody could ever know, not even the baby itself on the obviously on the inside of you. So it's like each journey is so unique and so specific that it's the antithesis of what society would want us to submit to, which is that we're all one and the same. We're all alike. Nobody's special. Nobody's important, except for a few that they want to prop up to you as special just so you can feel less special, which is a whole nother ideal, another distraction, but ultimately keeping us from the secured reality that we are the most prominent carriers of life in this space. The Empress is here and not the Emperor, because the Empress is who carries the life and matures it and reproduces it to its full term. And that's calling us all, masculine and feminine, to embody that ideal, that whatever it is you're holding inside of you is important to ultimately the evolution of our existence. Certainly for when I'm looking at these cards here, it's important to perhaps even saving the existence as we know it, or what's the word that I'm hearing? Securing our future ultimately. And I'm speaking of that in a very practical sense. As I said, when we procreate seed that is more evolved than even we are, that's more hope for the future. When we allow the visions that we have to come to full term by way of shifting our mindset to first believe that we are in fact worthy and capable of carrying whatever that vision is and bringing it to full term, then it gets to be on account of that mindset and the habits that we're shifting in accordance with it. It doesn't have any choice but to manifest in that regard. And that's the vibration that so many people are on now, which is, again, as I said, is making it harder for people, for the powers that were, to really regain or maintain control over our minds, our spirits, and our bodies. Interesting that it is the Empress card too, who is the expression of fertility and productivity and prosperity and all that good stuff. To the point, many of us, didn't even know that it was possible for us to carry anything unique or special and God forbid divine and anointed. You know what I mean? We didn't know that we had the capacity to carry such a thing, or that we were worthy to carry such a thing. So therefore, when you don't think you're worthy to even perceive of a possibility, you don't do things that would be in alignment with it, and then you ultimately don't ever see the fruition of that initial concept. It's like aborted before it even comes to life, or barren. Some of us are barren. Some of us, the idea doesn't even make it to full term, or have been barren, and some of us haven't even allowed it to make it to full term on account of fear for how it's going to be perceived or received once it is born. So all of this to say, all these analogies and shit like that, is to say to just allow this new moon energy, back to the point of it all, to really fuel your highest potential. Shake off those things that have been old, dead weight, how you've been doing life, that you can clearly see in your retrospect that haven't really been all that productive. You know what I mean? The habits, the possessions, the obsessions, the relationships, the family, the friends. It's in people, places, and things, places that you go that don't support your highest vibration. people that you're associated with, things that you do. We've been encouraged to release all of that over this past cycle or 2 or 3 or, decade or 2 or 3, quite honestly. But most intensely this year, we've been really working on releasing the worst of us so that we could be the best of us. Don't allow that work to be in vain at this time. Now is the time to really lean into it, and all the things that you've already observed of yourself to be or not to be are now what get to culminate into this creativity of habit, of doing, of action in accordance with your faith, so then that you can actually receive the reward and return for your labor, literally your labor. I think I'm just going to take the Queen of Pentacles. I love it. I'm just going to take the bottom so we can get the hell out of here. And then we got this Page of Swords. Yeah, this is like society. Oh, look at that. No way. I love this for us. We had the King of Pentacles, which in this, and the way that I'm perceiving it, yes, it is what it is, as I said it was. But this is also a great counterpart with the Lover's card, because this speaks exactly to the high value essence of humanity that I'm speaking of. Now, not everybody is in alignment to be chasing their wildest dreams. Not everybody wants to, perhaps it's not natural selection for it to happen that way. I don't know. In my utopian mind, everyone would get the opportunity and the chance to operate in their highest potential, if it was up to me. But for whatever reason, universally so, maybe the balance and harmony of it all, that's just not what it is, even though it's very unbalanced right now, or imbalanced. But this here is telling me that this is exactly what we're speaking to and aspiring to this high value essence with the masculine and the feminine energy here. Someone that knows their value and knows that it's not limited to material wealth, measure, or gain, as it is projected in our society to be so. Yes, it doesn't mean that money doesn't make everything a little bit nicer, a little bit more fun. You know what I mean? It's not to say that we denounce material acquisition, for the sake of spirit. Not at all. I feel like there's a great synergy between the two, especially with the Lover's card, which is definitely the presence of an exalted energy, where we're called to answer to our highest calling in spirit. And the truth of the matter is that we are entitled to an inheritance and a reward and return. This is the reward and return, right? For the hard work that you've relented to just in the being. The being is in the Lover's card, where you've chosen to answer to the best you that you can possibly be. That's exactly what that is, with the Lovers. It is about partnership and a match made in heaven and divine union and all that good stuff. But it's ultimately like returning to your like original, most productive self, before you were tainted by society, before you were tainted even through the womb by, the iniquities and sins of our parents, and then clamored by the projections of our surroundings and this and that. It's like returning to your organic self, naked and unafraid, in the sense as the Lover's card is, but knowing that that's the true value of you. That's the invaluable essence of you, that it can't even be measured, And this I see as society, again, looking on the sidelines, but look at the demotion of energy from wielding, or at least the false projection of the sword of truth as it pertained to society. This is the correlation that I'm making. See how regal this Justice card is. The lords of the land that have held great authority and power over existence are now existing in the Page of Swords energy, which is a great demotion of importance and impact, if you ask me, because it's telling me that these energies are only really able to watch amidst all of their efforts, their greatest efforts. And I'm not going to say that there may not be some diabolical or detrimental impact that is made, hopefully not in the ways that I've been perceiving it here, with some of the things that I called out and channeling. But it means that the weapons may form, but they won't prosper. Ultimately, this is prosperity. Knowing who you are on the inside out, knowing the value you bring to this earth, to your life, to your family, to your relationship, to your job, like everywhere you go, walking in the self-awareness and assuredness of just how important and essential and invaluable you are to this world, that everything that you can conceive of it matters ultimately. That is literally a seed that's being sown into our overall life experience. And the powers that were are exactly as such. They were highly productive and even prosperous in their endeavors. But now it's all, no matter what you see, and I think that's why I'm saying it this way, it's like, because the projection of such doesn't appear to be that. It seems like every day we're still fighting the same battles and nothing's changing, it's just getting worse. And you, even in your own life, you may even feel like you're on a bit of a hamster wheel and you've been spinning your wheels for a long time, investing, sowing, keeping your head down, working, believing, hoping, praying, trusting, and there still doesn't seem to quite be the exchange of return and reward for your investment that you may have hoped for, or at this point, pretty much expect, what I mean? Like, it's an expectation. I encourage you to stay in expectation. As I said, there's still a bit of a haze that's being filtered out as we speak, and ultimately is clearing the way for you to be in your most prominent perspective of truth, to move ahead with all the information, all the intel, to actually step into this identity of high value humanity and prosperity as it was already divine for you to do so. Those that are on the outside looking to attack, looking to interject, block, connect, looking to be an obstruction, a distraction, a distortion, limitation, they're going to be bound ultimately by their own tricks and tactics. Believe me, no matter what you see, no matter what's projected to you on a grand scale as it is, generally, universally, even so with the planets that are in alignment now, as it is in your most intimate experience of life, anything that is looking to be obstinate to you and your highest self is ultimately already defeated. All that you have to do by way of protection and progression is just to stay the course, continue to be who you've already been called to be, who you've already discovered yourself to be in this high value position of authority, the justice of it all in harmony and balance with that aspect of yourself, even as it's measured against the illusions of the world. It's a hard balance, but it is possible, to still continue to maintain this ideal of yourself, even amidst all that you see and experience, and ultimately to stay in alignment with the plan that you have set in place for yourself. Like, that's the integrity of it all. Once you get the intel, you have the awareness, you're clear about who you are and what you're set out to do. You have a plan of action to now follow. You have a behavior, a habit to commit to. That's the integrity that ultimately is what leads you or prepares you, I should say. It's not even a leading as much as it is a preparation. It makes way for that thing, whatever it may be, the reality of the matter of your manifestations to be handed down to you in real time, to be created, for there to be success with what you're after. It's not as much about the hand to the plow, hard labor, doing all the things, but not being all the things. You can move with, the most ambitious actions at the forefront. You got the master plan. You're going to work every day. You're putting your hand to the plow. You're working out. You're eating right. You're You're looking for a job every single day. You're going to school. You're going out to you present yourself available for a partnership or whatever the case may be for this acquisition, this ideal outcome. But if it doesn't start with you knowing first and foremost that you're worthy of it all before you even set forth out the door, it's just wasted energy. And even if you do meet the goals that you set out to make, it won't really return the same level of fulfillment that the life experience of a lover in this life is called to have. You'll just be checking things off the lists, marking things off the to-do list or off the bucket list, and there'll be no true connection to what you're experiencing. And to me, that is infertile in a sense, because it's the connection to the spirit of it all. The idea that I'm worthy to receive this, enjoying the process, enjoying the expression of who you are, celebrating it unapologetically so, being bold in your expression and even in your expectations in life. That's the forward power move that gets to be made before any work gets done. And then the two come into alignment to then create the evidence of this prosperity and this high value that not only will then fuel again you to continue to work in that regard and continue to move forward in life in that elevated, exalted state of being. It'll also express that inspiration to others, in addition to backtracking, that being an infusion of energy that's now being poured into everything that you give life to, whether it be in an actual natural sense or in an ideal energetic sense. It all matters. It all matters, and it's all forwarding our collective creative consciousness to evolve beyond the limitations that would like to persist but must ultimately resist. All right, or retreat. Whatever you fancy. All right, so that's it for that. Again, happy new moon to you. Happy new year, new you, whatever that pans out to be. I wish you all the best in your endeavors and your preparation, your plans, and even in the progress of your pursuits for manifestation and manifesting ultimately the best you and best life that you can possibly live in this earth, on this timeline, in this reality. All right. And in that case, I think I will shut it down. Thank you so much for being here with me. Until next time, peace.